There's lots of developments in the Israel-Hamas war in the last several days. The United States has attempted to broker a deal between Israel and Lebanon. Leaked documents have revealed the framework and what is being negotiated between the sides. Meanwhile, Hezbollah's new leader gave his first speech and related to whether he will accept such a ceasefire. At the same time, there's escalating fighting in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, and Hamas has publicly rejected the latest proposals for a hostage deal. I'm Alon Burstein. Let's dive deep into the latest in the Israel-Hamas war. Starting with the Israel-Hezbollah front, Hezbollah and the IDF continue their massive escalation of fire each day. Hezbollah has fired well over 100 to 200 rockets, missiles, and drones into different areas in northern Israel each day, while the IDF has continued to carry out hundreds of airstrikes and ground bombardments throughout Lebanon, as the military also continues to solidify its grip in the southern parts of Lebanon. There are far too many incidents to name all of them from the last several days. Several of them did, though, make headlines both in Israel and in Lebanon. These include significant airstrikes that were reported on October 30th in the northeastern parts of Lebanon. The IDF reported targeting Hezbollah command and control centers in the areas of Baalbek, while Lebanese sources reported that 19 people were killed in those airstrikes. There was no report regarding how many of those killed were Hezbollah operatives and how many were civilians. The Lebanese Health Ministry simply reports the amount of people that were killed reportedly in these attacks. On that same day, Mustafa Ahmed Shehadi, who is the deputy commander of Hezbollah's Radwan force, that is Hezbollah's main commando units, was reportedly assassinated in an airstrike the IDF carried out in the Anabatia region. It is important to note that Shehadi is one of the most top-ranking figures in the Radwan force after the round of assassinations that occurred throughout September, and this assassination is another blow to Hezbollah's main operational activity within the southern areas of Lebanon. In addition to that, on October 30th, the IDF carried out a monumental detonation operation, reportedly razing the entire El Matmora village to the ground. The IDF has been carrying out significant operations in that village over the past week, and the military sources reported finding weaponry, underground facilities, military gear, and infrastructure in, quote, nearly every house in El Matmora. After cataloging and collecting the equipment, major detonations were heard throughout the entire region on October 30th, as the entire area, defined by the IDF as a, quote, gathering site of Hezbollah, was destroyed. Many videos emerged with IDF soldiers showing the major detonation. Reportedly, it was heard throughout the entire region in southern Lebanon and in northern Israel. Meanwhile, on October 31st, an unusual amount of casualties were reported in Israel as a result of Hezbollah rocket fire. Several rockets managed to penetrate the air defenses in northern Israel, resulting throughout the day in the deaths of 7 people and a few different incidents throughout the entire northern regions of the country. With regards to the ongoing negotiations between the countries, U.S. envoys Amos Hochstein and Brett McGurk have been traveling between Lebanon and Israel in the last several days in an attempt to broker a ceasefire and a de-escalation plan. In relation to how this plan might look, on October 28th, a leaked document was published in several different news outlets outlining a draft of the framework that is being negotiated. Very broadly, the framework is a roadmap and mechanisms that are meant to secure the implementation and of an expanded interpretation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701. That is the UN Security Council resolution that was issued in 2006, ending the war that then developed between Israel and Hezbollah. That resolution calls, among others, for Hezbollah to completely be removed from the southern parts of Lebanon. It says there can be no armed forces other than the Lebanese military south of the Litani River. According to the leaked document, the current framework involves a declared ceasefire between the sides and a 60-day transition period. Within this transition period, during the first weeks, the IDF will withdraw from sections of southern Lebanon as the Lebanese military takes up positions in that area. And according to what that document says, the next stage will be that the Lebanese military will carry out a process of gathering all unregulated weaponry in the areas of southern Lebanon, dismantling all unregulated military infrastructure, and assuming positions to stop weapons smuggling and the possibility of Hezbollah rearming itself. The process is meant to ensure that the Lebanese military will be the only armed force in southern Lebanon, and that there will be, again, this more wider implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, not just stopping Hezbollah's presence south of the Litani River, but also stopping the possibility that Hezbollah can rearm itself throughout Lebanon. In addition to this, mechanisms of enforcement are also discussed in this document, including the creation of a new body, the according to the document, International or Independent Monitoring and Enforcement Mechanism, INEM, which will be chaired by the United States and will include other countries approved by both Israel and Lebanon. According to what that document says, this new organization will be entrusted with following the implementation of the deal, monitoring it, and also recommending to each side how it can be improved, and will also have the authority to issue sanctions if any side violates this agreement. Now, what are the chances that this deal is actually going to go through? First, it requires the agreement of both Israel and Lebanon. And second, there's the question of how Hezbollah will react, because Lebanon is obviously not going to agree to this if it leads to an internal civil war within Lebanon. With regards to Hezbollah, on October 30th, Naim Qassem gave his first address as Hezbollah's new leader. I'll add here, if you're interested in more information about Qassem's appointment as Hezbollah's leader, check out the different summaries I uploaded, one on September 28th and one on October 29th, where I discussed his history and his position as a new leader of the organization. In his speech on October 30th, Qassem began from stating that he is going to continue to implement the war the way Hassan Nasrallah had envisioned the war would continue, explicitly stating that the support for Gaza will continue and that Hezbollah does not see any reason to stop supporting Gaza in the war, i.e., Qassem began from stating he's going to continue Hassan Nasrallah's vision that he continuously stated throughout the entire war, the entire first year of the war, stating that there will be no independent ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon until there's a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. However, as Qassem's speech continued, he gave more and more indications that he's actually going to be deviating from the way Hassan Nasrallah had linked the two fronts. It came up to the point where he explicitly stated that Hezbollah is not going to seek a ceasefire itself. However, if Israel looks for a ceasefire in Lebanon, Hezbollah would be willing to accept this under, quote, appropriate terms, end quote. With that, Qassem also stated that he's not going to stand in the way of what's good for the Lebanese people. Throughout the speech, there were more and more indications that Qassem is recognizing that Hezbollah is right now in a bit of a dire situation compared to how it was when Hassan Nasrallah had linked the two fronts. In an even deeper moment of analysis, I'm going to say that it is extremely unlikely that Naim Qassem would be pursuing such a direction without explicit permission or even instructions from Iran to deviate from the way Hassan Nasrallah had linked the two fronts in this war. It is possible that Iran is seeking to preserve Hezbollah's forces and let the group recover in order to regain the balance of regional threats against Israel. Again, that is speculation on my part. What can be said about Qassem's speech is, while he started from saying there will be no independent ceasefire, he later indicated there are certain conditions in which such a ceasefire could take place. So while it may be possible that Hezbollah would agree to this deal if it was worded in certain ways that could let the group, quote-unquote, climb down from its positions, at the same time, the two countries have been indicating that they are not jumping ahead with the way the deal is worded. In Israel, it has been repeatedly stated over the last several days that the country will only advance with the deal if Israel is granted official legitimacy to be the one that enforces the deal if the Lebanese army fails to do so, i.e. Israel saying it's not going to rely on this international mechanism, it wants to be the one that has permission to enforce the deal if the Lebanese army does not live up to what it is supposed to live up to. Hours before recording this, it was reported in many different channels throughout the Middle East that the Lebanese government has reported a breakdown in the negotiations. Asharq al-Awsat specifically quoted Lebanon's Speaker of the House, Nabi Berri, as stating that it is the Israeli demand to be the one that enforces the deal that has led the talks to break down. Other sources listed this demand as one of the reasons the talks have broken down. Either way, those are the reports that are coming out in the last several hours. So where are things right now? All these reports on talks breaking down are still unofficial. On the one hand, they may stay unofficial, as neither government will likely want to be the one who's held accountable for rejecting the deal. On the other hand, it is also very possible that we are going to see escalation in the fighting in the coming hours or in the coming days. Both Israel and Hezbollah are likely going to want to apply pressure on the other side to show more flexibility and move towards a deal on the terms that each side wants to impose. Either way, that is where things are right now in those negotiations. Meanwhile, while all eyes are on the Israel-Lebanese arena, fighting in northern Gaza has continued to rage over the past several days. Massive airstrikes have been reported in Beit Lahia almost daily, and very intensive fighting continues to rage throughout Jabalia refugee camp. According to reports, over 45,000 Palestinians have evacuated Gaza City and the areas around Jabalia refugee camps in the past week. Alongside this fighting, however, the World Health Organization reported on November 1st that the polio vaccine campaign is going to resume in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip on November 2nd. The organization added that it was guaranteed that there would be humanitarian truces for this purpose. It was not reported specifically where those truces were going to take place or when this would take place. However, this indicates that there's at least some coordination still in order to achieve these humanitarian truces. In addition to the fighting in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, it was also reported on November 1st that Izzeddin Qassem, who's a prominent figure in Hamas's political bureau in the Gaza Strip, was assassinated in an IDF airstrike in Khan Yunis. Qassem was one of the more senior figures within Hamas's political bureau that remained in the Gaza Strip. He also played an instrumental role over the years in coordinating the activity between the different organizations within the Gaza Strip. Once again, it was reported that he was assassinated in Khan Yunis on November 1st. Finally, with regards to the hostage negotiations, on November 1st, the Al-Aqsa News Channel, which is a Hamas affiliate in the Gaza Strip, quoted senior sources within Hamas that rejected the smaller deals that were being proposed over the last week. As a reminder, both Egypt and Israel attempted to put on the table temporary truces, ranging between 48 hours some of the deals and 30 days the other deals, which would involve the release of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners. Hamas, however, has maintained that it will only accept a deal that leads to a permanent ceasefire, an IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, and an end to the war, adding in a statement a call to accept the proposed agreements from May and July of this year. Those are my highlights from the past several days. If you find these reports informative, please do remember to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications if you want to know when reports come out. Send them on to anyone you think might be interested in the war. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'm Alon Burstein. I'm a visiting assistant professor and Israel Institute fellow in the Department of Political Science at Tufts University. Thanks for watching.